view of that request.
Point of order?
Not exactly, Mr. Chairman. But in view of Mr. Welch's request that the information be given once we know of anyone who might be performing any work for the Communist Party, I think we should tell him that he has in his law firm a young man named Fisher, whom he recommended incidentally to do the work in this committee, who has been for a number of years a member of an organization which was named, years and years ago, as the legal bulwark of the Communist Party, an organization which always springs to the defense of anyone who dares to expose communists. I certainly assume that Mr. Welch did not know of this young man at the time he recommended him as the assistant counsel for this committee, but he has such terror and such a great desire to know where anyone is located who may be serving the communist cause, Mr. Welch, that I thought we should just call to your attention the fact that you're Mr. Fisher, who is still in your law firm today, whom you asked to have down here looking over the secret and classified material, is a member of an organization not named by me, but named by various committees, named by the Attorney General, as I recall. He belonged to it long after it had been exposed as the legal arm of the Communist Party. Knowing that, Mr. Welch, I just felt that I had a duty to respond to your urgent request that before sundown, when we know of anyone serving the communist cause, we let the agency know. We are now letting you know that your man did belong to this organization for either 3 or 4 years, belonged to it long after he was out of law school. Now, I have hesitated bringing that up, but I have been rather bored with your phony request to Mr. Cohen here that he personally get every communist out of government before sundown. Therefore, we will give you the information about the young man in your own organization. Now, I'm not asking you at this time to explain why you tried to foist him on this committee. That you did, the committee know. Whether you knew that he was a member of that communist organization or not, I don't know. I assume you did not, Mr. Welch, because I get the impression that while you are quite an actor, you play for a laugh. I don't think you have any conception of the danger of the Communist Party. I don't think you yourself would ever knowingly aid the Communist cause. I think you are unknowingly aiding it when you try to burlesque this hearing in which we are attempting to bring out the facts.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Democrats have been in bed with the communists for several decades. It's laughable to try to put that on Donald Trump and the Republicans. Welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Live in our home base, WAAR. We are America Radio, your number one source for streaming political and government talk anywhere. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in my bunker, finally, in my Smith & Wesson studio in the city of Pittsburgh, straight out of Atlanta. Let's welcome my co-host on Thursday nights to wrap the week up for Cold War Radio, Miss Stacy Rush out of Georgia. Good evening, Stacy. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Hutch Bailey Jr., and what a privilege to be able to wrap up your week with you. It is lovely to be here, and I hope everybody out there listening is having a great week so far.
Well, it's certainly been a week full of information, and we've got a lot of that for you tonight. Please like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio, 2 A's in war. Need to get some more people liking that page. It's got to be, it's got to have some people in there for it to be worthwhile. So get over there. It's free. Follow me on Spreaker. You can listen to the program on Blueberry. You go on your Roku and look up Blueberry and look for Cold War Radio. You can, under politics and news, and you can actually watch the radio show. That's a little boring, but you can do it. You can catch it on YouTube the same way. Cold War Radio is an iHeartRadio worldwide. You can check the show out. There is a Cold War Radio app from Speaker. Please take advantage of that free app. You can chat right from your phone. Take it with you wherever you go. Listen to all the old shows, and there's quite a few of them, 442 to be exact. The email is scrtv@live.com, and the call-in line, 412-567-1460. We will see how Skype is going to treat us this evening. Remember, if I don't answer your call, pay attention to the show. If I don't answer your call, I will attempt to call you back. So be prepared. You'll see it's the 412-567-1460 comes up, I think. This weekend, I will be contacting Skype to see what's going on with that. It's starting to tick me off, but that's just inside baseball stuff. The chat room is up. Go to steelcityresistance.blogspot.com, and you can catch all the pertinent links right there. The show notes, which you're going to need tonight. We've got way more notes than we can talk about, but there's some good reads in there. And if you can help, hit the donate button on the right-hand column. We always appreciate that. Now, all that being said, got to have the pre-roll. Stacy, somebody came out in the news, and I caught this on Newsbusters. I like newsbusters.org every now and then. It's a very revealing site, which it's one of my favorite links on the website. But Brian Williams, this is the biggest ironic thing. I want you to listen, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to listen to Brian Williams talk about Donald Trump. I mean, he talks about moral authority. It's unbelievable after what Brian Williams did. I can't believe he's still on the air, Stacey. I thought he got fired.
I know, but he's on MSNBC, so does that really count?
Right, okay, that's it. But I know nobody watches that, but we're gonna share it with you just because of how wonderful it is. Check this out.
A misspelled rant on Twitter around 6:30 in the morning on Saturday. In addition to attacking the host of the TV show Apprentice, the president went where no president has ever gone. He accused his predecessor of a felony, referencing McCarthyism and Watergate. He said Barack Obama had tapped his phone at Trump Tower and said the former two-term president was a bad or sick guy. No serious person would say what he did. President Trump offered no evidence. There is no evidence, so we are left with a reckless smear of a former president.
Let me just stop it right there, because he makes a point that no serious person would say the things he said. No, Brian, every serious person would say the things he said if they thought the president of the United States was wiretapping them and they were trying to run for president of the United States. All of us would have said that. The only people that wouldn't have said that are people like you. That's why nobody believes you anymore. All right, let's continue.
In that way, it was a stunner of a weekend here and abroad. The office of the president, if not the occupant, must speak with moral authority, especially at a time when North Korea is lobbing 4 missiles into the sea off Japan, as they did just over 29 hours ago. The president's outburst seems to have gotten its start as a theory on talk radio, then codified somewhat by Breitbart News, which seems to then have made its way to the leader of the free world. What needs to happen now? Doesn't the president need to own this and come out and address this? Malcolm, I know you've spent minutes waiting to hear my prison yard spotlight theory, but here it is. Could this be, whatever Donald Trump is talking about, an example of the prison yard spotlight, in that most of the time you're not in it and you're able to cavort in the prison yard when it's on you, when it pans over you, when it picks you up in its bright light? It's a bright light.
Well, Brian Williams certainly is into the prison yard spotlight, isn't he? I mean, this guy's something else, man. I mean, this is the guy that lied like several times. They made an absolute fool out of him on social media with all the memes. And he's back on the air speaking like he can judge people's moral authority.
Right. He's the guy who said he saw a body float by his hotel in Louisiana, right? Yeah. He's got the moral authority to be lecturing Donald Trump. But seriously, what the heck was the prison yard spotlight at the end all about? I was like, what are you even talking about?
The only thing I could think of is because I watched the video clip that we pulled the audio from, and he was talking to a black guy. That's the only thing. I don't know if he was trying
he was trying to relate to him. Here's an analogy you can understand, black man.
Exactly.
You know, it's like when you're in prison, black dude, and the spotlight's on you. That would not surprise me at all.
That's all I can think of because I've never heard that analogy before in my life.
I haven't either.
It's just, it blew me away. But that's not all. We have more. We have the esteemed representative representing Compton in Los Angeles, Maxine on MSNBC. See if you can follow this because it's a little tough.
You think that Donald Trump should be impeached over Russia and anything else, any other discussion distracts us from that investigation? You still hold true to that?
Yes, we're going to understand the role that this administration has played during the campaign with Russia. And when we see that, he certainly will be eligible for impeachment.
Testimony of a former British spy who wrote an unsubstantiated dossier of alleged collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. Do you believe anything about that dossier?
Oh, I think it should be taken a look at. We already know that the part about the coverage that they have on him with sex actions is supposed to be true. They've said that that's absolutely true.
How are we all going to find out what is true and what isn't true? I mean, does it help that you think so? Because unless you have information that we don't have, that's an allegation.
Yeah, but you understand that I am saying the investigations must be done. I don't think you can do the impeachment just because I think or others think, but I think that if we do the investigations, that we will find the connections, and I do think that impeachment will be necessary.
Oh, my goodness. I don't think that we should have the impeachment just because I think and others think. But I think that it's unbelievable. These people, there's something wrong with them.
Honey, I love it when you play Maxine because she makes our Hank Johnson sound like Einstein.
I mean, I don't know whether it's extracurricular activities going on with these people, but she doesn't even look real. I mean, I don't know.
I couldn't follow it. So, I mean, she's lost it. I think we should just investigate, his sex. We know the sex stuff is true. The guy was like, no, we actually don't.
She believes it. I mean, it's something else. To even do that story, man, the guy, the English guy, to think that this was going to go over, it's just, it's getting more and more bizarre. I'm stumbling for words because it's getting more, the more things you hear, the more this is going surreal. And the bad part about it is the American people aren't even complaining. It just seems like, are we the only ones catching this? But
are they even paying attention? I mean, honestly, I think they've overplayed a little bit their hand, right? I mean, I think some people are getting exhausted with all of the, let's destroy Trump at all cost. And so sometimes I wonder if they even pay attention to when little old Maxine opens up her mouth.
Yeah, she must be giving them turkeys at Christmas time or something. I don't know. But, now, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I remember back when Donald Trump first began picking his cabinet, we were all giddy because he won, and one of the first picks was General Flynn. And I was one of the only people that I know that had worries about him. And I said it. I said he's too close to Turkey right now. I really wanted us to get allied more with the Kurds, the Turkish Kurds, the Syrian Kurds, the Iraqi and the Iranian Kurds, all of them. I think that this is an ally that we have not utilized enough. We've not helped them enough. They've never done anything to us. And I had reservations.
Paying the price for it now.
Right. And today it came out, something that I knew. I didn't know that he was getting paid $500,000 to do it, but I did know that he was lobbying for the Turkish government, which means Erdogan. And Erdogan's no friend of the Kurds. Now, I ran this by Cold War Radio's brain in the area, Hadi Ellis, And he said that he thought that Flynn was working it to support the Kurds. So I don't know. He would know more than I would. But he also told me some information that made me shiver a little bit. Now, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, how much you guys know about the Marines that they're sending and additional 1,000 troops other than that, maybe more, into Syria. The reason that they're sending one contingent of those soldiers in there is to be a buffer. Right now, there's about 6 sides to this war, and we've been explaining it to you to the best of our ability. It's so complicated, but one of the complexities of this situation is you have the Turks, the Turkish army, and Turkish special forces, then you have the Kurds, both semi-allied. Now they're natural enemies, but they're both going toward Al Qaeda or ISIS rather in Syria. But the problem is that the Kurds and the Turks are starting to fight each other on their way to Raqqa. So you have the United States military inserted in between them to try to keep them from disintegrating before they take Raqqa. And Mr. Ellis told me that he's heard that the Turkish special forces have started woofing at the American troops saying that they're going to send us home in coffins. You know, the Turkish special forces. So this is something that we're going to keep our eye on, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have enough information. This is just breaking for me tonight, which the United States media is always a week behind the media in the rest of the world for some reason. I've just found that it's embarrassing, but it's true. You know, Hadi told me he had this information for a week. You know, so anyway, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We'll follow it as we go, but it's I knew there was something wrong with Flynn. I hate to say I told you so, but I remember saying it, and I was a little leery because everybody was fired up, Stacey. Everybody liked him, you know, and I'm thinking, well, you know, for me, I would eject Turkey from NATO myself.
I didn't know too terribly much about Flynn, except for he was a former Democrat, so that always, you know, gives me pause for a few minutes. But so were you and Wayne, so, you know, I can't really say too much about it. But, you know, there are 2 people that a lot of people like that I've always got a kind of a gut, just not a good feeling about. Michael Flynn was one of them. So is Mike Huckabee for some reason. So maybe I just don't like the name Mike. But I don't know. There's just some gut feelings that you get about people, and sometimes people that, you know, truly people like and respect. And Flynn is one of those that gave me that kind of gut feeling, but I didn't know enough about him to say one way or the other. Maybe Trump and his team, you know, were able to uncover a lot of this ahead of time, and so that was part of the decision making, and a good one, I guess. So, you know, I hate that it gave blood in the water to the media to try and keep going after people like they did Sessions after. But you know, maybe it was the very right decision to avoid, you know, what's coming out now.
Now, there's a guy that they overplayed their hand on.
Yeah.
Jeff Sessions. I think that was a huge mistake for the left. But I have the same problem. I have a problem with almost all intel officers. I mean, I've been around them, and they're not the same breed. I didn't like Hayden, and the guy they got in now, I went to high school with the guy, and I don't like him, McMaster.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he doesn't even come close to getting the Islam situation.
And I think you're not alone on that. I've heard a lot of people not a lot of people, I've heard of it from a few people that they have some reservations about McMaster. So,
I mean, stand up guy, go fight a war, do what you're told, you know, make plans, but stay out of politics when it comes to a situation you don't understand. You know, when you come out here and you tell me that Islam has nothing to do with anything, you clearly don't understand. I don't care how many stars you have. You know, you haven't studied it. And that's a problem with me. Being politically correct in an existential situation like the Islamic war on the West that's been going on since 700 AD is not a good mix, in my opinion. Now, let's switch a little bit because, and I'm glad you're on tonight because I wanted to vent a little bit about this, and this gives me the perfect opportunity. This is from Breitbart and Lee Stranahan specifically, and it's entitled "The Fix is In. House Committee on Russian Hacking Includes Only DNC Hired Tech Experts." Now, the thing about this to me is, I mean, obviously the way it's stacked. And let me just get into the first paragraph, and then I want to opine a little bit. A list of witnesses scheduled to appear at a House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence open hearing on Russian active measures contains a glaring problem. The only technical experts scheduled to testify are from CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is a firm hired by the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, and has become the primary source of the narrative about Russian hacking of the 2016 election and has acted as a mouthpiece for the Democrats since last June. Now, first of all, the DNC does not have a good track record when it comes to hacking, Stacey. I mean, they are the epitome of a failure. Mm-hmm. Their entire email database was open to the public. I mean, this is unbelievable. But my bigger point, and I'd like to know how you feel about this, because I remember we've been together for years, and I remember talking and being so enthusiastic and so fired up about Trey Gowdy and the Benghazi Committee hearings and about all these other hearings. If it was up to me, we would never have another congressional hearing in the history of the United States Congress.
I am
They are
with
worthless.
You. They are 100% worthless. 100% worthless. And, you know, when I read this story earlier today, I thought, dear, is this really happening? Can this really be happening? That these are the witnesses that they're going to have come up and speak about this? You know, it's amazing to me, and I think people start to understand a little bit more after the WikiLeaks dump with some of the CIA tools that they have. And I am not suggesting that someone from the CIA, you know, hacked the DNC and you know, released the information basically showing that the election was rigged against Bernie Sanders. But what I am suggesting is that when the CIA has a tool that can make it look like Russia, you know, is the hacking entity, or that China or Iran are behind a particular hack,
Or Stacey Rush.
Yes, absolutely. And they have lost control of these cyber weapons that they have. And so to me, it is an absolute joke, the information that they are citing, that they are so positive that Russia was behind the hack. Russia was not behind this hack. And the Democrats are so invested in continuing this Russia propaganda thing that they've got going on, because they see it as the only winner that they've got, that this is the people that they're bringing in to testify. The people from CrowdStrike, no independent cyber security experts, that Lee goes through his very detailed article about others who have said, this isn't necessarily Russia, and there is no proof. And I find it ridiculous that this is what's going to be put out for the public. And like you said, these hearings are worthless anyway, because it is just political theater, and it is just another opportunity to have a bunch of Congress people sit around and give their 2-minute soliloquy, and the American people find out basically nothing.
And nobody ever gets held accountable for anything.
No, zero.
And the thing that bothers me also about this, and this is a very serious problem, and I'm starting to believe what I'm getting ready to say, is the Republican Party really this stupid? They run the Congress. They can do, if you recall, during the Democrat rule, they can do whatever they want to do. And they are allowing themselves, it almost makes you question, is it collusion or stupidity?
No, I think it's collusion.
I do too.
Point. I mean, because unless that witness list changes, it's collusion. You look at what's going on right now with how poorly this Obamacare 2.0 is being rolled out.
That's stupid.
You look at the fact that they've had control of the House and the Senate, and granted, it's been 40 some odd days, and I know the Democrats are, trying to hold up the cabinet appointments as much as humanly possible. But really, Really, you can't get one thing taken care of, and you roll Obamacare 2.0 out like a dip. I mean, this is nothing. And now you've got McConnell saying that tax relief won't happen anytime in the near future. I feel like they're all in collusion working together.
I'll tell you, I pray that somebody from the Trump administration is listening to this program, or somebody that has their ear. Mr. President, sever yourself from these people. Mm-hmm. Sever yourself from this bill. Sever yourself. This party is going to self-destruct, and it's going to take you with it. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, mark my words, this bill's a loser. Well, it takes people 40 to 60 years old, and it puts the burden on them, and those are the people that elected you.
Mm-hmm. I know, and we have repeatedly elected them, right? Since 2000, when was the Big 12? Was the big
2010
when we rolled in and gave the Republicans the control of the House and the Senate. We've been voting every 2 years since 2010 to repeal and replace Obamacare. And here is the other piece to that. How many times have they voted to repeal it in whole? And you know, the bottom line is, you talk about collusion. These people never thought Donald Trump was going to win. How do you know? Because they don't have anything together. And you know, maybe half of it is stupidity. Maybe there are the Freedom Caucus people are out there really trying to do good work for the American people. But the vast majority of these people are establishment with big money donors who want Obamacare to continue as is because it's better for their business. And
Donnie Hughes telling them that's what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
From the Chamber of Commerce.
And now, you know, Trump's out there right now trying to sing the praises of this bill, and the bill sucks from what I can tell at the moment. Now, I'll tell you this: I haven't dug deeply into it, but the few things that I do know about it, this is not a good bill. This is still complete government control of our healthcare system.
And another thing too, and this is something that I cringed when he said it on the campaign trail. You want to keep existing conditions? Well, let me explain to you what that means. If the American people can't live without getting insurance, without, you know, before you're sick, like before your conditions come up, maybe we can have something for people who currently have existing conditions, but you cannot have an insurance plan or an insurance industry that allows customers to wait until they get sick to go buy the insurance. If we have that in the bill, if that is in the bill, then we will have Obamacare. Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it. There has to be healthy people have to provide tax dollars to pay those insurance companies off in order for them to stay alive while treating people when they're sick.
And that's the whole problem with it, is there is still so much of bailing out the insurance companies, but they're being forced to take on poor risk. And trust me, I'm not a fan of people who have, like, I have a torn disc in my back, and if I lost my health insurance and wasn't able to get an individual policy because of that torn disc in my back, I'd be really pissed off about it, you know? So I get it. I don't want people who have had cancer, who have cancer, or who have problems with their backs or their ankles or what have you, to not be able to purchase insurance. But we can't keep the same type of product that Obamacare put out there, which is essentially you cover everyone for everything.
Right.
And you then also control the cost of it. That's not insurance. That's
you could do something like, you could say, all right, by so and so month and day of the year 2018, you have to come forward with your condition, and you can buy health insurance. But everybody, this is in perpetuity. This is from now on. If you that, and what that means is the scumbags in the country that are trying to get over on the government, like, and there's millions of them. Romney lost the election for calling them out, but they're out there, and they will not buy insurance until they get sick. If you can't have that, you can't have both. You can't have free market health insurance and allow people to not buy health insurance because they're healthy now. It doesn't. That's not the whole concept of insurance is everybody put your money on the table, and whoever gets sick will help them out of that money. But if you never put the money on the table, and then you come in, I mean, that's just not that's not moral.
No, it's not, and that's what someone in the chat room just said. It's like waiting until your house is on fire to purchase homeowners insurance, and you
exactly.
And the problem is that the Democrats have been very successful with the whole point that health care is a right. It's a right. You have a right.
It's not a right.
But you do get health care. You know, before we had Obamacare, if you went to an emergency room, you got treated. You know,
yes,
so
and you know, I've been preaching that words matter for so long. I know you've heard that. I wear it out sometimes. But this is a perfect example of that. We have morphed, even on tonight's show, we have morphed from calling it health insurance to calling it health care.
Right.
There is a
big
difference.
Huge difference.
And the government should not provide either, really.
No.
Except for people that don't have anything.
Exactly. And I think that there is room to have a government program for people who truly cannot afford to get their health care, who have...
And that's it.
Absolutely. But then the rest of us, we should be able to go out and let the free market reign. And it could.
It could.
It absolutely could if we would get out of our own way.
You get the government out of it, and it'll revert to health insurance.
And you look at it too, Hutch. You hit the nail on the head. Just because you have a card that says you have health insurance, that doesn't mean you're going to get health care.
But these people, if you talk to people, and I think you know a lot of people in the medical profession, you talk to them in the emergency rooms and even at the urgent care places, and the people that are most entitled or are most dependent on the government for everything go to the emergency room for every little thing.
No, I know.
I mean, it's sickening.
It is. It is amazing for everything that they do. I do have some friends, and not just do they go to the hospital for every little thing, but you want to talk about people who I hear from friends of mine that are physicians or in healthcare who say that the absolute most demanding, entitled patients are the ones who aren't paying for anything.
Oh, yeah.
And they are the rudest. They expect the most from you, and they're on everybody else's dime, and it's just sometimes very appalling. But I tell you what, the Republicans are losing this debate right now.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely losing it.
And you talk about the stupid party. Every single Republican presidential candidate and every single Republican you look at anywhere all say we should keep pre-existing conditions in it. Mm-hmm. Every one of them. They're dumb as hell. Yeah. I mean, they're socialists. They have been co-opted, the entire federal government, except for people like Tom Cotton. There's people out there that are superstars. Mm-hmm. But these rank and file people, they have no clue. No. They have no brain. They think that they're smarter. My son is a professional firefighter in the city of Pittsburgh. He says people call, and I listen to the police radio and fire radio. I've been listening to it all my life. And some of the things that make me go, guy calls an ambulance because he has a stomach ache, a sprained ankle, an ingrown toenail. My son tells me they call, some of them, just to get a ride to the hospital.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
By a $300,000 apparatus.
And not just that, because if they come in an ambulance, too, they get seen quicker, from what I understand. So, of course, you're going to do that. So it is, I mean, it's an unbelievable racket. But here's the problem. We've heard this before, when you have Santa Claus in the form of free, stuff for people, trying to take it away is going to be a very difficult process. And I don't mind it being a difficult process. I do mind it going too quickly and getting, just a lighter version of Obamacare passed. I don't mind if it takes a while to undo this. But I think what you're going to see right now is, because of the CIA WikiLeaks dump and the fact that Donald Trump was pretty successful in pushing back on the prove the Russia tie, because either Barack Obama was surveilling me in some way, shape, or form, or he wasn't. So he's gotten them off on that narrative. And I think the Democrats see this Obamacare rollout debacle as their next 24/7 Russia.
I wouldn't doubt it. But to that point, from Breitbart and Matthew Boyle, Senator Tom Cotton to House Republicans, start over on health care. Now, before we get into this, let's listen to a clip of Paul Ryan, Speaker Ryan, number 3 in line for the presidency, has never had a real job in his life, has gotten very rich from being in government. Let's listen to what he says about Ryan Care.
I've got a few things I'd like to say.
Let me apologize. This clip only recorded on one track, so it's not in stereo. If you're listening in headphones, it's only going to be in your right side. Sorry.
First of all, I would like to walk you through exactly what the American Health Care Act is. The key thing that a lot of people want to know, when I do my listening sessions, when I talk to people with various disease advocacy groups, is they just want to know that when we pass this, the next day they're not going to lose their health insurance. That's not going to happen. We pass this law, and the day after, Americans who have insurance aren't going to lose it the day after. We need to have a stable transition to conservative health care reform, and that's what we're doing so that we do not pull the rug out from anybody who is enjoying some kind of coverage they have today. The states get to set up their own health insurance systems. The states get to set up their own regulations so that you can buy whatever you want to buy where you live. That is called patient's choice. That is called a patient-centered system. And that is one of the biggest tools we believe can be used to replace Obamacare. This is the closest we've been to repealing and replacing Obamacare. And let me just say it again. This is the closest we will ever get to repealing and replacing Obamacare. Yeah.
So he thinks that this is the closest we're ever going to get. Again, I repeat, he has never held a real job in the private sector that I know of. I think he started working for Jack Kemp when he was 18. And now he's got a mansion in Janesville with a wall around it and everything else. But the thing about this is, they say that they're all worried about reconciliation. What they should do is stop and repeal Obamacare by itself. Mm-hmm. One bill, repeal Obamacare right now, and that's done. And do what you have to do to get it through. But let's listen to Tom Cotton, Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, Arkansas or Arizona, Arkansas, is calling on House Republicans to withdraw the Obamacare 2.0 bill, the American Health Care Act, that House Speaker Paul Ryan put forward, and start over. Now, to your point, Stacey, he sent out 3 tweets. 1, House health care bill can't pass Senate without major changes. To my friends in the House, pause, start over, get it right, don't get it fast. And then he goes, GOP shouldn't act like Democrats did in Obamacare. No excuse to release bill Monday night. Start voting Wednesday with no budget estimate. And then he finally says, what matters in the long run is better, more affordable health care for Americans, not, in all caps, House leaders' arbitrary legislative calendar. And I agree 100% with that. I mean, start over. It's not going to work. And again, to the Trump administration, don't get this mud on you, man. I'm telling you.
I know. And I just don't. I don't understand what they've been doing the past 7 years. They should have been having a meeting once a month for every year Obama was in office to nail down what they agreed on for a plan so that they could repeal it and replace it with something that would work in consensus for all of them and have a cohesive message. That's the thing. Like, I was listening to Paul Ryan for the past couple of days on various shows trying to explain everything. He's such a policy wonk. He can't get anything down to a soundbite. And sadly, the Democrats can. So the Democrats are going to come out with their sound bites. Paul Ryan's going to throw grandma over the cliff. The VA is going to get their benefits cut because of the Ryan Care. 20 million more people are going to lose their health insurance. Everyone from Medicaid is going to lose Medicaid. And they're going to have these specific sound bites to put fear in everyone to oppose it. So why they didn't have a more cohesive approach to this, I will never, ever understand.
Oh, I'll explain it to you right now. If the vote on Obamacare would have came up that the Democrats only had 48 votes for Obamacare, 3 Republicans would have voted for it. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. The
say
fix
that
was
again?
in from the beginning. If only 48 Democrats would have voted, wait a minute, it was, put it this way, if a majority of Democrats would not have voted to pass Obamacare, that's right, it started in the Senate. It was supposed to start in the House. It started in the Senate, finished up in the House, I think. But my point is, no, it was the Senate, because it was all about, remember, it was all about
it was the Senate
Massachusetts.
that ended it.
If they would have had 48 votes, 3 of the Republicans would have voted for it. That's what happened the last 7 years. They were lying.
Yeah.
They were lying. It was pure theater. They lied every time they said they were going to repeal Obamacare. If you look at the first paragraph, it says this is an amendment to amend the Affordable Care Act. You know, it's not a repeal. It's a tweak. It's changing the color of the lipstick.
Yeah.
It's taking a few things out, but it still has new entitlement programs with $14,000 per family, which I forget who it was, but he explained it very clearly that if you start,
that's your bottom.
That's your bottom line.
That's what everybody's premium is going to start out at, $14,000,
exactly.
And he's exactly right.
That's true, and it's never going to end. If you don't wean the American people off of this right now, you're never going to do it.
Yeah,
it's going to be like the income tax. It's going to be like Social Security, and we're going to go down the fiscal hellhole.
Yeah, we are, and I can tell you guys, it just won't work the way that we have it set up. In my business, during the day, my daytime job, I have to deal with clients and their health care concerns, throughout. I mean, it's just part of one of my responsibilities. And I've had to see over time, some of my older clients who are on Medicare, who are paying, and please don't misunderstand, they've paid taxes all their lives and they should be on Medicare. But the problem is that when you're paying a little amount a month for Medicare and for your supplement policies, let's say it ends up being $600 a month, $800 a month that you're paying for this premium, and I have to review these invoices that come in for prescriptions and for doctor visits and all of that, and then their average monthly bill is, $4,500 for all of this stuff, or, it's just over time, this isn't going to work for us as a country. And that's just one piece of it. And so then you start adding on the Medicaid, and then you start adding on the supplements that we're paying so that people can, quote unquote, afford their health insurance. None of this is going to work over the long term. And I find it really difficult, even with Donald Trump. And again, this is not to say anything against people who are on Social Security or Medicare or what have you. I say keep your stuff, at a certain age, though, maybe at my age and below, you say either you got to start working longer or you're not going to get as large of a benefit or something, because financially we cannot continue to take care of this large of a population from the cradle to the grave on welfare and take care of all the medical of all of our citizens. It's fiscally irresponsible. And the fact that none of our politicians will actually speak about any of this as adults, including Donald Trump, is going to be a problem for us in the long run. And granted, the economy picking up is going to help that tremendously, So we do have a lot of great things coming with Donald Trump and how that will help us. But we really do have to face as a society whether or not we want, what we want. And if what we want is cradle to the grave care, it's not going to work in this country. It won't work. We have too many people, and there's not enough working citizens at this point to keep paying for everything for everyone. It's just not sustainable.
And let me just add also, that when you add in, I saw this mentioned in the chat room earlier, when you add in the success that cultural Marxism has had on our society, you have less and less inner morality, to quote Brian Williams, in our society, to where people don't care.
I know they don't.
Where they don't realize that for the greater good of the nation, everybody can't be on the tit. You know, to excuse my language, but that's what it is. These people are lining up at the trough.
They are,
you know,
and there's no self-respect and no issue with it. That's not the way I was raised, and I don't get it. But you're right. It's cultural Marxism.
And it's even with good kids. You know,
I know.
It's even with good people. My son, I have to say it. He doesn't listen to the program, but he's in the field anyway. But he came up to me one day and he said, "Man, this is really cool." He owes a couple $100,000 in college loans. And, man, this is really cool. Obama's going to forgive these. And I lit that kid up. At the end, he understood. You know, but, I mean, it was never in his mind that for that to occur, A, he had to screw the banker that he promised to pay back, and B, that the neighbors were going to be paying his student loans.
Yeah, that it's not written off into space. You know,
right.
and that's the thing. You know, if we could change one thing, it should be the education system. It really should be, and
that's
should be
the number one problem.
It really is, and it should be teaching economics from an early age, because you know these people, like you said, they're good. Your son is a good-meaning person. I guarantee you, if I asked my daughter, she would want everything to be taken care of.
Sure,
because it sounds so great. Well, Stacey, do you think, if a single mother has two kids and she can't afford daycare, do you think the government should? Well, yeah, if she's going to work, I think the government should help pay for her daycare. Okay, and what if she can't afford a car to get to and from work? Do you think? Well, yeah, I think, if she's going to work, then we should pay for a car. And you're just like, okay, and so then who pays for all this? And they're like, the government. And then and who is the government? I mean, they literally think
I know
that the government is this cash machine or some sort of money-making enterprise, and they do not realize that every single dollar that we make, like you were talking about how much taxes you had to pay this. I don't even want to think about what my total tax bill is going to be this year, and that's not even including every tax you pay on your cable bill and your,
property
your
tax,
cell phone, your property tax. I mean, we must spend 70% of our income in taxes. It's
easily.
Unbelievable.
You go to a football game, you got to pay an amusement tax. I mean, it is.
Stay in a hotel, and it's like, oh my God, my room might be $150 a night, but by the time I check out, it's $300.
Right, no doubt. Now, maybe what we could do, and it is what it is. Our society. If you take a snapshot of our society right now, all right, let's grandfather everybody that's here right now. But maybe going forward, maybe the government would make more progress if they incentivized families, if they incentivized marriage and things that they almost shun now, which a lot of that has got us to where we are today.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got things that are not normal that are occurring in over half of our society. It's not going to end up well. I mean, you can see it all over the place. But one of my favorites is if I'm in a restaurant or a grocery store or something, I'll see a young couple, right? And it's apparent immediately to me that the woman is taking care of everything because she's dressed nice. You know, she's in the grocery store and she's got this guy with her who's in shorts and a T-shirt and wearing a backwards baseball cap. She's dressed normally. Who pays the bill? You know, she pays the bill. You know, it's unbelievable. Our men, man. It's anyway. Let me just cover one more subject.
Can I make it the last story? Because I think this is such an important story that's not getting a lot of coverage.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
let me just cover this real quick because it's the title of the show.
Okay, sorry.
And I'm gonna announce it, and you can go to the show notes links and read what Ann Coulter has to say about it. This is from Front Page Magazine, one of the forefront websites that's out there by David Horowitz, but it's called Immigrant Privilege Drives Child Rape Epidemic. And Ann Coulter documents, let me just read a paragraph or two of this, and then we can go with your story. before breathing a sigh of relief that unlike Western Europe, we don't have Muslim rapists pouring into our country, recall that we have Mexican rapists pouring into our country. Almost all, and this is not racist, this is true. Almost all peasant cultures are brimming with rapists, pederatrists, and child abusers. Latin America just happens to be the peasant culture closest to the United States, while the Muslims are closest to Europe. According to North Carolinians for Immigration Reform and Enforcement, immigrants commit hundreds of sex crimes against children in North Carolina every month. 350 in the month of April 2014, 299 in May, and more than 400 in August and September. More than 90% of the perpetrators are Hispanic. Now, you can say what you want about that, but you go read that article and look at the backup data that she cites in there. It's the real deal, and it's something that we better soon look at.
And it is sickening. It's sickening, even if you're not a parent. Just seeing the number of assaults on these children and what percentage, of immigrants are committing the crime. It's very disturbing, and it's most disturbing that it's not being covered. And I think that's a huge deal, is the fact that we are so politically correct as a society that we are perfectly fine with sacrificing our children so as not to offend someone with facts.
It's bad.
And I find it disgusting.
So what do you got?
All right, so this story, and I'm sure your listeners and you guys may have already covered it, but there are 4 Pakistani brothers that were fired from they were congressional staffers. And if you haven't heard it, Hutch has an article linked. It's on his website. How staffers and security probe allegedly kept stepmom in captivity to access offshore cash. And what I just want to make people aware of is not just this portion of the story about how vile these brothers are, and the fact that they were keeping their stepmother in captivity so that they could have access to the father's money as he is passing away and dying. But these congressional staffers worked for the intelligence committees.
Andre Carson, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, big-time names.
Absolutely big-time names. And they were fired for what we can only assume are cyber breaches within these organizations. And think about how much access and what type of information these brothers had.
All had top security clearances.
Top security clearances. And get this, too. This is the part of the story that Hutch has posted, which was shocking to me, is that even though these brothers were fired, they began working for the Democrat National Committee for Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2005. He then brought on his 2 brothers and their 2 wives, and they have all been on our congressional payroll collecting more than $4 million. $4 million. This family who has allegedly, breached servers of the DNC and these intelligent committee members, and I'm not hearing anyone talk about it. I have seen these articles on the Daily Caller, and I just think it's such an important story to get out there that these brothers, they have a lot of ties with some nefarious characters through Pakistan. Yes, and I find the fact that we are not hearing more about this very disturbing, because I want to know personally, this is the kind of thing, if you're going to have a congressional investigation, who hired these people? Who recommended these people? Why were they all
being prosecuted?
Exactly. And you're hearing nothing about this. They were fired shortly after President Trump got into office, and you're hearing relatively nothing about it.
I'll make it even. I'll give you an even sicker little morsel. They were fired right after right after the Yemen operation.
And you look at the committees that they were on. They served some high-ranking Democrats on intelligence committees, and then, like Hutch said, right after our Navy SEAL died in the raid, they were fired. So that makes your mind kind of wonder, were they giving intelligence to other people? Here's another
and
question.
How many more of them are there?
How about SEAL Team, what was it? SEAL Team 6?
6, yeah.
How about that? Were they in office at that? Were they working for Debbie Wasserman Schultz and these intelligent committees at that point in time?
Unfortunately, no. And we're out of time, Stacey. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, nobody. It seems like we're hamstrung. Mm-hmm. I reported on this story, not this part of it with the family, but I reported on this is the third time, and I have yet to hear it on any corporate media. There's a web in there that's going to be tough to clear out, but we're going to have to do it at some point.
There is. I feel like it's huge, Hutch, and I just want more people to go to Hutch's website, read this story that has to do with the family and how nefarious these disgusting brothers were, even to their stepmother. But really read it, talk about it, get it out on your social media, because I think there's some real there, and we just don't know what it is yet.
Definitely, and please, Stacey, how can people reach you on social media? We got to get out of here.
You guys can reach me easiest on Twitter, Discovering Me 40, and I'm Right Rush on Gab. And thank you, Hutch. Been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Stacey, for coming on. I always appreciate. Look forward to Monday on the Wayne Dupree program. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, please go to your friends. Bring 10 more people each onto the show and onto the Wayne Dupree program, which is coming up next on rsbn.tv and Spreaker and WCCD in Cleveland and other places. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks to everybody that's listening live and in the chat room, and to all of you that listen to the podcast. We love you too, just as much. But try to get in here live. Now let me just make an adjustment, because some people, I had to make it 7:55 to 8:55, because I have to get ready for a video production coming up next, and that takes a little more button pushing and things. So I appreciate you adjusting to the schedule. And man, no calls tonight. That was smooth. I got to figure the Skype thing out though. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting me in. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook and Gab, Bird's Eye View on Twitter. And thanks for letting me into your life for 1 hour. Jacob, take us out of here. God bless.